for taking the time.
No worries at all.
Hey, Kerry, have we met before? I get
We
a bit
have.
confused. Well, there you go. There you go. Because I used to know. Have we met as part of the Tim's team or another part of the world, or?
No. I've been working with Tim for 14 years, so it'd only be with Tim.
Yeah.
You came in. You came in and showed us the Woolloongabba stuff.
Yeah, cool. That was a little while ago.
Yeah, probably a couple of years, I'd say.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
That was that when he. Where was he? Which
we were here.
organisation?
We were here at well, not Peak Urban, we're Colliers now, but
Yeah,
when he
cool.
came when he came over. So I think it must have been in the first. I think I've been here 4. He's been here 5 in July. So yeah, it must have been good 3-4 years ago.
I'm going to say it's probably pre-COVID.
First year. Oh God, it definitely was. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, very good, very good. Dan's sitting in Perth actually driving this today, but again, that's a good example of our journey here with how this whole next phase of, where the world's going is virtual collaboration anywhere in the world, on any device, et cetera. But Kerry, I guess in instance, as I probably put in an email the other day, without oversimplifying it, we're trying to sort of use the power of the Unreal Engine, Seizing World Terrain and Amazon Web Services, and literally, take what we've been doing as a consultancy, and indeed many people have been doing, and, just make it simpler to do. So from a consultancy point of view, it's how do we take some of those tasks that I'm going to say are almost menial tasks that take time and effort and fast track that to allow you and others to do more interesting and important things quicker and faster using enabling technologies. Our whole remit is moving from a world of of 2D static plans and reports into immersive real-time world from day one. So as soon as you have an idea, as soon as you want to communicate an outcome, our sort of journey is trying to encourage people to do that in a spatially accurate, immersive, real-time world, and to move away from the static 2D butter paper sketches and then write all these words to describe an outcome, and then technical drawings. Obviously, drawings and reports are going to be part of a world for a long, long time. But for us, we just see this journey of, we're going to call it visual literacy and creating a common visual language, particularly from a planning and design point of view, as a far greater way to engage, particularly our non-technical stakeholders. At the end of the day, our A students, those people that are subject matter experts and know how to use the fancy and complicated software, this isn't necessarily the tool for them, but it's all those other people that almost, rely on interpretations of that stuff that we're trying to sort of ease up and provide sort of another avenue to do things. So the most important thing for us is that we're moving from a two-dimensional world into a three-dimensional world. And what Dan is doing is just flying around the world, flying around Seizing World Terrain, and just showing some of the data sets that are now available. But for most people, technical and non-technical, they don't know how to access them. So we're going to give access to all these data sets. But then importantly, we want to interact with those data sets. And again, we want to move away from this journey of 2D to 3D. We're up here at Caloundra South. No, we're not Caloundra South, Caboolture West. We've been trying to do some stuff with AB Jennings. I know you guys are busy out there too. But, just to take, for instance, that site and the confusion and discussion with non-technical people around the amount of topography and hills and all that sort of stuff is where it's all about. But what we also want to do is tap into all the data sets that are out there. And that's what we can do now with being internet connected and through servers, and to put those data sets into this spatially accurate world. So, it's early days. It's very early days, but we just want to, I guess we're trying to get feedback to see if we're heading in the right direction. But, for us, the data sets, a lot of it still exists in the 2D world, but we want to tap into these data sets that are widely available. This is the National Water Body data set, and bring it into an environment that, anyone can understand in a 3D world. So without oversimplifying it, we've got our 3D world to give us an understanding of topography and spatial relationships if it's in the city or something. And then you've got all this data that we can tap into, and Tasmania and Western Australia are certainly probably the best states that have opened up their data source. And I think that's the other interesting thing, is that the world is moving towards open data. There are some areas that are still very closed data. It's all been paid for by the people of Australia and the people of various states. So, I think there's a real push with this next generation of open data source, and Tasmania is great. So Dan's just tapping into their, planning data at the push of a button, and then overlaying that into the 3D cesium world. And again, our main thrust here is that anyone can do this. No technical knowledge required. If you know what you're looking for, if you can use a mouse and a keyboard, you're kind of away. So in fairness, the quality of this isn't quite where it needs to be. We're sort of, Dan's in Perth, remoting into his desktop here on the Gold Coast, pinging it back through a server in Sydney, and then pushing it through Teams. So, it's not ideal, as opposed to if you're just running this live to the servers, it'll be much faster. But again, just an example of data sets. And you guys have a stack of data. So the other reality too is that groups like yourselves, as a consultancy, our vision for you is that you have your own metaverse that has your own data that's not necessarily public, that has all your own projects all in one space that can be accessed anywhere in the world at any time, and you can have this virtual collaboration. People like Stockland's, they have their own data sets. In fact, we're doing a metaverse at the moment for Walker Corp and playing with some stuff with Lend-Lease, and all of our clients, we're trying to push this way to have all of their projects, existing, proposed, or under development, all in the one sort of spatially accurate world, and bringing in all the data that they've paid for and procured from the various consultancy teams, and bring them into an environment that they can understand and interact with. So Dan's just tapped into the bus routes in WA, and these will all be meta tagged. It'll tell you when the bus is coming, how often it comes. But again, that's just public data. So I know, Kerry, you guys are across data, so we don't need to worry about that too much. All we're trying to show is that there's new and exciting ways of showing that data in a very easy way, and particularly in a way that's spatially accurate based on the environment that you're in. And again, whilst we're dealing in the greenfield space here up at Caboolture West, you can do it all with the photogrammetry data sets. For instance, Dan, let's just ping over to San Francisco. I know we'll come back to that a little bit later. But these data sets are being opened up all over the world through people like Aerometrics and Nearmaps and other suppliers working with people like Cesium. And we're just making it all available. It's all been filtered in via Cesium tile sets. So this can run on your mobile phone, again, subject to having a reasonable internet, which looks like it's frozen. Dan, has it? There we go. But again, the quality of data that's now being made available, we know there's a lot of data in a lot of the Asian cities for anyone to interact with and understand, is pretty cool. Dan, let's flip back to Caboolture West, because we might as well stay out there, because that's a real project that you guys are working on, right?
Yeah, like we would definitely have the majority of parcels. I don't personally work on AVJ, but everything to the west of that, is pretty much what ours.
Yeah. So we've been trying to, Eliza's been away on her bloody trip. We've been trying to tee up with AV Jennings for a long time. But the beauty of this is that once you understand the data and understand the terrain, you can start sketching in the terrain in 3D. So think about all the butter paper sketching that you do on a flat piece of paper, to be able to do it in 3D. And in fairness, Dan's not an urban planner, or he's a tech artist, but he's starting to understand where ridge lines are and what lakes, water bodies are. So we're going to have this ability to sketch in 3D, which is a real breakthrough when we started this with Epic. But in addition to that, and that can be at any scale. So Dan's down there, really small scale. And so the whole idea too, Kerry, is that it's collaborative. You can have this, you can have 3 or 4 people online, you can hand over control, they can take control, they can sketch. And Dan, for instance, is just, he's driving it, but it's almost being driven on my sort of request and what I'm asking him to do. So it's pretty responsive. In addition to all the Sketchtime stuff, and and you can do that fat pen, thin pen. We're going to have all these planning icons. And again, we're just at the start of this journey. And I probably should have opened up and said that really all we want to try to do is get some feedback as to whether you think this is worthwhile. A worthwhile direction to go in. But all those little planning icons that you start with when you're doing structure planning, blobs and arrows and asterisks and all those sorts of things, we'll have all that stuff available, all the different scales, all the different colors that you can play around with and sort of get your structure planning done, if you like, and adjust and modify and do all those sorts of things. Then we're going to have a whole lot of like little guides. So at the moment, for instance, our grid tool, let's go to the grid tool, Dan. It's like in the old days. I shouldn't say the old days. I'm sure it still happens. You slide a bit of grid paper under the plan and helps you with scale and straight roads and kilometres and 1 metre, 10 metre grids. So again, you can adjust all of that, and you can do all that in 3D. So you can then drill down and draw over that for scale. Yeah. So again, all the things that we used to do in that sort of physical paper-based world, we want to bring into a world of, of the virtual world, I guess. So in addition to that, and again, we're going to develop a whole lot of these things. We're just going to work with a few planners, to help us with the sorts of, I'm going to say, tasks that are a little bit menial and how you could fast track it. So walkable catchments, be able to just drag and drop those things on, adjust them yourselves for scale and reference, all in this 3D space. So we'll develop a whole series of those. Let's go to our little planning tools, Dan. Are they the calculator tools? Like for instance, lot calculator tools. And again, this is just an example of what the gaming engine and the smarts can do. So we take a big chunk of land there, and again, working with Stocklands or Lend-Lease or AB Jennings, you block of land there. They might say they want X lots per hectares, or they want an average lot size of this. They want, geez, he's got 82% efficiency. That's good. But you can put 20 lots a hectare, and it tells you what you have, and it does all that at a push of a button. You can then put broad costs, broad sales prices, all that sort of broad back of the napkin type discussions, and it's all sort of happening live there. But again, Kerry, that's just one of 100 of these sorts of little widgets that we'll develop that will help make this journey a bit faster. So we're dealing with a few people who've got solar farms, same deal. They got a big parcel of land. We deal with their solar people. They know the efficiency they get in terms of land use. You can feed in. This is just based on a standard Queensland panel. It gives you 700,000 panels, that many kilowatts. Again, you put in a construction cost and a delivery cost, and you can do a whole lot of things in real time, So that's just an example of, the many hundreds of little widgets that we want to develop that's going to make planning and design outcomes, occur faster and easier, and to help sort of non-technical people sort of understand that journey also, or to do it in a visual way, I guess is the important thing. Once you've done all the space planning and you've got your structure plan and you're doing all your blobs and drawings and that sort of stuff, we then also want to tap into a whole lot of 2D assets, because generally, people can understand a space. So for instance, Dan, being bold, he wants to put the Sheridan Mirage Port Douglas out at Caboolture West because he's going to turn it into a tourism mecca. That's Sheridan Mirage at scale on your site, So we're trying to make it really easy to do some broad brush land planning based on sites that people know. And then we'll have hundreds of thousands of these in the initial sort of library, but then we're going to give you a tool that you can go to anywhere and seize in world terrain, take almost like a snip of where you want to go, and then bring it back into your site at scale. And then of course we're internet connected via Amazon. You can then link into all the Google stuff, so you can visit the site in Google, do all the Street View stuff that you want to do. But again, we're going to have, it's early days with our filtering system here, but all the various land uses. Then I can't see that that's a retirement village up at Lat 27 or whatever. So again, all at scale. In fact, we're doing some site planning work with a retirement village group, just doing this, where we're taking existing villages that they all know and putting it on their block of land, so they get a really clear understanding of the space planning required. Not sure where we are there. That's down on the Gold Coast, I think. So again, really quickly being able to show sort of that space planning, opportunity, then be able to go to Google, etc. So again, we're going to have thousands and thousands of those assets. And again, ultimately, you'll be able to do all that yourself in terms of identifying the area that you want to drop on and bring it onto your site, all at scale. We're going to do the same thing in 3D. So Dan, let's just, maybe go over to, let's go over to Kawana, up to, Kawana up in Caboolture, no, Caloundra. Go over to our favourite site. So again, there's that block of land there on the left. If we want to look at some medium density on that block of land, you're going to have all these assets to be able to drag and drop and access. I'm going to say, Dan, probably best to use the townhouses there, to be honest. It's probably a bit big for that site, but that's okay. I know you're a budding urban planner, but let's just go to our townhouses and our splines or whatever. But again, just being able to upload and drag and drop, these assets and drag them in there, put them at scale, go down to the ground, and very quickly understand. So Dan, you might just pull that, if we can, let's show how easy this is. Can we pull that boundary to the green fence or whatever? There we go. While we're down there, Dan, let's plant some trees. and let's get some bollards along the front. So, Kerry, someone like your group, I'm going to say, would have all of your own assets, or indeed all of your client assets. So, someone like AB Jennings, we're trying to eventually convince them to have their own Sketchtime metaverse that has all of their assets from all over the country that they can drag and drop and place and do some very early planning with very early on, So here's Dan just dragging out something. Dan, what have you got there, mate? That's a fence. Might just go down to the ground so we can see what you've done there, Dan. A bit hard to see. And Dan, I think, can you just, are you mute? You can just explain what you're doing? It's a bit hard to sort of, I know you're doing it quickly.
Sure, just some bollards, like you said.
So make those bollards maybe 3 meters apart and bring them a bit closer to the footpath.
Okay, now I'm frozen. There we go.
Okay, sorry. And again, in fairness, this is really early days, Kerry. So there's still a lot of bugs in this, and we're just sort of playing with possibilities. So let's make it maybe 3 meters apart, Dan. Yeah, there we go. So again, just be able to sort of get all of our urban planning elements, and a lot of them are standard, and start creating scenes. Dan, let's go to the, you're gonna put some trees in there, why not? Yeah. So this is all web-based stuff. So these trees are coming down from a server. That's why it's all pretty light and you can run on a mobile phone. That's cool. Dan, let's go put a 10-story building, maybe behind that somewhere. You can leave those there. Yeah, let's just drop I'm not sure which. Just the other one on the left. Oh, okay, that'll do. I'm not sure how that scale will work there. Then let's go to the balcony there and have a look at the lake, the views you get from the lake once you've placed it. So again, it's, simple things like this that, you can sit with your sales and marketing team straight up. There's the view you get from your 8-story building, and the fact that you can turn to your left and say, yeah, we can look over those buildings. And again, this is the benefit of working in a cesium well terrain that's spatially accurate with data sets that are, being brought in, such as, that photogrammetry there. Dan's got his sunset tool. All very good, Danny. Let's go and what else can we show that we haven't showed, Kerry? I mean, we've gone through this pretty quickly, Kerry. Comments tool. So again, being able to have this virtual comments, where you've got people making comments on a scene that can be saved. You can come back tomorrow and see, what somebody might have said. All this stuff is geo-referenced too. And then the other really important thing too is that it's all open architecture. So we're not here to compete with a bit of software. We're here to complement a process. So if you're working in CAD or SketchUp, whatever, you'll be able to ultimately import everything you do here back into your SketchUp or CAD or whatever you're working in, or Civil 3D, whatever, or likewise bring those data sets into this environment. So Dan's just done a pretty interesting little road there. So this is the road tool. So, eventually I think there's 25 standard roads around Australia. We'll have all of these in there that you can lay out very quickly. We'll also ultimately have a tool where you can design your own road in terms of shoulder, median, walkway, etc. Ultimately what you'll do here is that we'll draw that and it will highlight red that corner and it'll say, Dan, that's too sharp for this sort of road. And then it'll sort of correct the radius for you based on the criteria of that road. So that's where the sort of, I won't say that AI comes in, but where this stuff is really good is where you've got criteria that are set. So if you've got a residential road that's got a set radius because you've got to get garbage trucks, it'll do that radius for you, it'll do all that sort of automatically as you do that, Dan, let's go and put the light rail through that big road there. Let's just say as part of the Olympics, they've decided, because that's the hospital, is it? Is that where we are? I don't know where we are. Yeah, that'll do. Let's put the light rail up that big road. Say council, or like, I'm not sure where the light rail goes up there, but I know there's a light rail proposed. So we've just now, spatially accurate. That's the Well, that's a typical light rail. I mean, they're different scenarios, but it's Gold Coast Light Rail. Let's put a station there just outside the hospital. Again, this station hasn't been optimized, so it takes a little while to load because, again, all this is coming off the net to make this completely accessible. So our goal here is that, you know, if you're working with designers or architects or whoever, they'll be able to upload their sketches or their data sets to this, and you can drag and drop and bring them into the scene and move them around yourself. So Dan's just putting some cars and people into the scene. And the whole idea, Kerry, is that we want to make this accessible. And this isn't to frighten our consultants that think, yeah, geez, if we do this, we're going to hand away our power. No, we just want to give you a better tool to do your job faster and can get consensus and to move forward quicker in a more equitable way, particularly with your non-technical stakeholders and shareholders, you know, whether that's the community, whether that's your own internal people, whether that's your consultants, whether that's, you know, state government, federal government. There's the train station. So Dan's just going to quickly modify this. And again, this isn't here to design the station because, again, it's all going to be, you know, there's a whole engineering process to go through in terms of the reality of what might work there, but to very quickly, you know, get a spatial awareness of what all that means, you know, in terms of putting a station in, you know, how much land take do you need if you want to now put another 2 layers of road across on either side of the station, which is what, you know, exactly what we've been doing with Gold Coast Light Rail. They're in a process that's taken a couple of years through exactly this, where they put their initial design, they go into the community, and the community sort of, you know, want to maintain the roads. But a way of doing that would have been to do this very quickly and get some feedback before they went and did all the sort of detailed design. So Dan's just doing some markup notes here. You can PDF, you can email these straight away. You can take snapshots, you can take videos, you can do all those sorts of things. And for us, you know, there'll be hundreds of thousands of assets. I'm not sure if you're aware of, you know, that wonderful Australian company called Canva, which has been such a success in the 2D world. Whilst the 3D world is a bit more complicated than that, we kind of see the same journey here, just being able to access all of these templates and all of these models, both your own sort of private IP, but then public assets, and bring them into an environment very, very quickly to build out opportunities. But as I said earlier, we envisage a company like yours potentially having your own private version of this that has your own data, your own private IP, combined with the public data sets, you know. Dan, do you just do a little solar tool there? There we go. So, you know, we spatially accurate solar tool any time of the day, any time of the year. Let's just, you know, you can just jump around. It shows you where the sun is on that particular day in that particular place. Dan, let's just jump back over to your favourite place at Whitehorse. And maybe just Dan, before you go, let's just do the Google API stuff here. So let's just search for Woolworths. So again, because we're internet connected, we'll be able to tap into all the Google APIs. So this tells us that there's 7 or 8 Woolworths close by. We can tap on one and I'll tell you, you know, again, just tap, just like your Google Maps tells you how far you needs to go, where you need to go and how you need to get there. So all that data set is there. Dan, maybe let's do the LiDAR. Let's jump back to Caloundra. Wiltshire West, sorry. Nope, looks like we're frozen up again, but that's okay. That's just part of the journey. So again, all of that Elvis data sets that you're probably aware of, Kerry, all public data. We can bring that in. That's all, you know, 1 meter LiDAR data. In fact, the next generation, Dan, you were showing me yesterday, you know, it's got you can categorize it, can't you, between trees, ground plane, and structures.
Yeah, these are categorized as well. The white is electrical and green is trees, black is ground.
Oh, okay, cool. I do apologize. There you go. Let's jump over to the paint factory. So here, you know, here's a good example of a project that, you know, we're doing in our consultancy business, which is our real-time business. But they can also see opportunities to be able to do a lot of this stuff in real time. So Dan's just coming over to Bris Vegas. So we've been able to then upload and import, you know, their massing model into this build. There it is there. And then they can start playing with in terms of trees and people and doing all that stuff that we were doing. So that's a good example of how you can input an architect's SketchUp model or any level of detail into this environment and start interacting with it. So Dan, so where are you there, mate? Oh, sorry, Dan, you got to explain what you're doing.
I just misclicked, that's all.
No worries. But that's a good example. That's all the Brisbane data sets. There's so much of this data stuff, starting to be opened up. We got all of Brisbane, we got Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. It's just being opened up and just giving people, access to it, particularly if it's public data. Dan, maybe let's go up to your place in the Yukon. Finish off there, then we'll open up for some general chit chat. So again, season world terrain, we go anywhere in the world, and these data sets are being generated, all the time. So these are just basic, what do you call those white buildings, Dan? OEM?
These are OpenStreetMap buildings.
Yeah.
So OSM.
OSM, yeah. So, and again, this is where it really becomes interesting for the school kids who are doing a bit of testing, where in the winter solstice, you get 2 hours of sun. In the summer solstice, you get 22 hours of sun, we go and sit on the top of Mount Everest. We can go and sit on the tallest building in New York. It's kind of endless. But our whole idea is just to open up the power of these data sets, the power of, the enormous range of assets that are there, and to provide, people with the opportunity to start immersing themselves in this, spatially accurate 3D world and start sort of creating and sharing and doing who knows what, because I think it's very early days. It'll be particularly interesting once we get AI into this and a whole lot of other things, and all of the open data sources, where, we're talking to like Gold Coast Council or Sunshine Coast Council. They have all their data, all of their traffic lights that they can roll into this in their own closed system to sort of, visualize that in a more meaningful way. But there we are, sitting on the top of the world, so to speak. So Kerry, that's we downloaded a fair bit there. But I know you're a sophisticated audience, so we didn't have to go too slow, because again, some of the people we're dealing with have got no idea of planning or no idea of spatial data. So we kind of have to explain that a bit more. But I guess let's open up for any questions or any initial responses to what we're trying to do. Dan, whilst we're talking, we'll just do a whole lot of other things to sort of further demonstrate capabilities.
Yeah, I probably should have explained I was on mute most of the time because our office is very noisy.
That's
so,
okay. That's okay, Kerry. I thought you were just a respectful listener.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said much anyway, but I just thought I'd explain that. It's just the external noise can be distracting for you.
Dan's normally got dogs barking, so he's done well.
Yeah, well, I normally have Tim sitting behind me. He's not here at the moment, so but he's a bit hard. So look, thanks for that. Very intently listening. Very impressive. Look, I think it's amazing. I love this stuff, always have. I've played around with quite a few programs and been really unsuccessful. I can pick up anything. I've taught myself every program that I can use. I always, I'm lucky Tim always wants something and I'll go and investigate it and figure it out and pull a process together myself. But there's programs out there in AutoCAD that I can't even remember what it's called that I tried to teach, and they're so cumbersome. They're horrific, and I don't think I think I'm very good at being able to pick things up, and so I've sort of given up, to be honest, in the last couple of years, because there's nothing really out there that you don't have to combine 10 million things, and it's not site specific. Like one of the exciting things I saw when you pulled up was the roads, being able to display the roads and them actually be the roads that council are. Like one of the things I played with one of the programs I was trying to teach myself was build a library of Moreton Bay roads, so I could do that. And as I said, it was so cumbersome, it was so difficult, I gave up. And I just didn't know why it was so difficult.
Hey, Dan, can you just bring up our roads? And let's go to a flat area where we can do this. I know Dan just put the light rail above the M1, which is no, that's the heavy rail, actually. That's the new crossway rail. He put it above the M1. But let's just go to let's just go to a flat road area there and just show Kerry what we've done with the road. Yeah. You can maybe just put it on the river. Why not? That's fine. That's flat.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. So again, in this thing here, you're going to have the ability to, first pull up a little thumbnail. But yeah, the reality there it is there, the cross section, and you can choose 10 of those, whichever you want. Now we're going to tidy all this up. This is just all piloting and pull. Literally what Dan's done, just drag and drop, pull it out, and there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the way it's going at the moment, and certainly this is like before COVID, we were doing exactly what you said, which was people were all coming into meeting rooms. We were sitting around printed out plans and etc. And certainly since COVID had hit, and everyone's doing meetings by Teams now, and certainly I don't think I've been to council for a long time. And the thing that I do as soon as I'm in a meeting, we're obviously talking about my layout, is I pull the CAD up. I pull the CAD up and I've got my little snipping tool. So, I'm in CAD changing things and we're talking about things. And then I'm using the sketch tool to sort of, draw like basically what you've done, but I've just gone, how about we put the road here, and I've drawn a green line or whatever. And that's for the single purpose of what you've said, is that communicating visually. That's the tools, that I've sort of used at the moment to do that. And it's, it's more effective than a plan, but it's not where I want to be. But as I've previously explained, the other stuff's just too cumbersome to sort of deal with. So that's where we're at, and that's where I've always wanted to be, and that's where we're moving to. And so, one of the biggest problems with urban design is convincing people to invest in things other than lots. Lots are important, but the ability to go, well, look, here's extra couple of street trees, or this is what this road will do if we put an extra green link in it. Like, like say for instance you're drawing now, we might say, well, let's increase the verge on one side, and they can see the benefit of that. Because investing any sort of social infrastructure in urban design is very hard in that 2D environment. But if people can visualize it, like we've drawn it like that, and then if you zoom down and see it, then people go, oh, actually, that's what I see in the pictures in other developments and why they win awards and why I like it. But they can't make that jump. They can't make the leap. So it's just really important that they can see that up front before they get hung up on the lot numbers or other things, just to see what that investment can do for a development. And I think this is the only way you can do it, personally, is this type of...
I totally agree, Kerry. I said, it kind of saddens me, to be honest, to see some of the stuff that's being, delivered these days. And it's just a real lack of opportunity. And you're right, a lot of it is just being driven by, lot numbers and whatever. And it's not until it's all built that someone goes, is that what it's like? So all we're trying to do here, without oversimplifying it, is test things in the virtual world and in real time, to get people excited very early on. Even like intersection treatments, roundabouts, and do we put 3 big trees or 1 big tree in here, and as you said, get them experiencing it on ground at scale. Because you're right, nobody understands. Well, very few people understand a 2D drawing at A3. That's what scale it is. So that's good or positive feedback, which is what we're trying to achieve.
I think it's good for the engineers as well, to be honest. I mean, they've got to get roads to function, and they've got all of the services and that, and and I actually feel bad for the landscape architects a little bit too. They sort of get thrown whatever the end result is without having to be able to contribute at an earlier stage. It's extremely frustrating for them, and they can have a big impact on that. Instead of, in my mind, all that technical issues always driving it, sort of, my job to get all of that spatial data, and, sometimes something is more important than others, but it just seems at the moment that there's always 1 or 2 issues that override everything, and it's lots and and other things. So yeah, I've always been an advocate for this type of stuff. I think the exciting bit about this for me would be I'm really hands-on, really hands-on. So to me, if I had something like this, I would have to have the ability to just constantly build a library.
Yeah.
You know, like that would be the exciting part. You know, you could
Yeah.
have like get Ausbuild to send us their little products and we'll be in a meeting and we can plonk on there, whatever they call it, or, you know, we could be in an MBRC meeting or something in a pre-lodgement and just go, look, here's your road. We don't think it is, because I'm always fighting about their road cross sections. I hate them. They don't, they put on street parking on where it's not applicable, you know, and we could say to them, look, you know, this doesn't work here and things like that. So constantly being able to, you know, be in control of the library.
And that's the whole
amazing.
idea. Yeah, and the whole idea, that's it, Kerry. There's, as I said, there's going to be a stack of public accessible stuff. But then, as you said, every developer, every builder, every consultant also has their own library. And to be able to access that, or indeed for them to be able to put those into the public data set, you know, to just, you know, help promote a better outcome, you know, so be it. So Dan, can you just, you know, Kerry was talking about
oh, that's a cracker road.
Yeah. Kerry was talking about, you know, placing you know, building types and whatever. So again, just to go back to our buildings, you know, again, we've got, you know, again, we're just piloting at the moment. So we're just trying to make sure the stuff works. But you go back to our houses, you know, just our 1- and 2-story houses. And again, we're going to have a much better filter, just the houses, mate, not the townhouses. Sorry.
Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, I still think that what you've got there is of extreme benefit. I mean, it still shows bulk form. Like you're still showing the height and the impact on amenity on the road. Just, you know, with just saying, look, this is a typical block of terrace, whatever.
Just come
which you don't get from a 2D drawing.
No. Okay.
In fact, you just get a lot.
Yeah. But, you know, again, we're just sort of showing capability of having 1,000 of these products. And you're right, you know, all your builders, and they all have this data, you know.
I think another thing that it does too, and I'm getting very specific now, is that, you know, we've got these planning schemes that, you know, we have to have certain lot widths and sizes and all that. But then they've got other, you know, prescribed outcomes in the scheme that say, you know, we want amenity, we want variety, and we want all this stuff. But what they don't understand is the prescriptive outcomes actually force you into something that doesn't support that. So when you sort of go in, you're sort of like, well, you know, you've got this type C or D, I think it is, it goes from 12.5 to 18 meters, and you can't have more than 4 in a row. And it's like, well, you've got a, you know, a 6 meter difference there. And, you know, being able to go, well, look, these are the different houses. Say, for instance, Ausbuild got 3 different houses and put them on. That would be something they go, oh, look, well, okay, well, if that's what you're putting on, I can see that there's amenity and variety, and, you know, that's an alternative outcome, because colours on a plan don't do that.
No.
You know,
no, you're right, Kerry. Said for us, it's all about, as I said earlier, this visual literacy and a common visual language that people can understand. So, mate, you know, everything you're saying's really positive, which is great. You know, as I said, with, you know, what we're doing here. Sorry, Dan didn't even do this, did we? This is our volume tool that gives you, you know, number of floors, you know, number of units, GFA. But again, all just out of push of a button. So to do some really simple, you know, massing and calculations, and then car parking and a whole lot of other things. It all spits out a table that can be exported. So, you know, it's almost endless where this is going to go.
Thinking about what you're doing right now, say, for instance, like, you know, we picked a site and I jumped on, I threw a few roads in and did a few lots and whatever. And then say Tim comes along and he goes, oh, Kerry, you know, I want to put a, I don't know, whatever you just put in, and I want to see the volume and the costing. He can open the drawing himself then, and then click on it and then punch his own stuff in.
That's exactly right. This is designed for an 8-year-old, 6-year-old. So Tim's,
well, well, you might have to go lower with him.
Yeah, I know. But listen, to be perfectly honest, it's interesting, you know, because I often, you know, ultimately I want to be driving all this myself. But it's interesting. I was in a meeting the other day with another senior executive, if you like, beside me. And Dan was sitting in WA, and the senior guy said to me, Luke, it's actually really good that we can see how quickly Dan can respond and do stuff. Because the reality is most senior people, let's just say the over 60, you know, the senior people probably won't be doing this. They'll be sitting there talking to someone else doing it, you know, but it's also really simple to do. You know, here's Dan doing everything, you know. Hey, Dan, do you want us to get back to the paint factory or just maybe that? No, just where the football field is and pull on the paint factory 2D CAD, 2D overlay. That should fit on that football field, I reckon. So again, just say you had a you had a site plan like that, and again, you can do the exact same thing. You can start, you know, massing this up in terms of, well, you know, what heights, what works best, what, you know. But again, the whole idea is that, you know, you're talking with council or with your stakeholders or with whoever. You know, you got a site plan to say, well, you know, we're allowed 4 stories, but if we go 6 stories, what's the visual impact? You know, if you put an 8-story building there, the step, you can build all that up yourself. I mean, Dan's just using his mouse and keyboard, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think with Dan doing it, he's obviously had a lot of practice, but I would hope that with practice I could be that quick. I would need to be.
Kerry, you would be, mate. I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. It is just a mouse and the keyboard.
Yeah, no, yeah. So that I think what I'm trying to say is that's really optimistic to me. Is that, you know, Dan's obviously a guru at it, but anyone can be with practice and, you know.
Kerry, you'll be fine.
I'm very familiar.
What was that?
I have made most of this, so yeah, very.
I was just going to say you probably built it.
Yeah, but the whole idea, though, Kerry, is that, and what we want to do at the end of this process, if you guys are up for it, is that we'd like to give you a little, you know, a bit of close testing where we'll give you this. You download it and have a play with it yourself, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And to get that, and we want to do that sooner than later, because I know, because I mean, I can do all this myself. You know, the only reason I don't drive it is that half the time the feature set's changing so quickly at the moment because we're in this MVP process. But you know, I can certainly, you know, I know that there's none of this here that's difficult, really, and that's the really important thing. You know, yes, it'll take a bit of time to understand where everything is in the you know menu, but we'll put together a little video, we'll put little hint notes that sort of show everything. But it's intended to be easy to use. That's the key, and that's what the Epic Unreal Engine or the gaming engine is really good at, is taking all this complex stuff and providing it in an environment that's really quite easy to use, you know?
Well, to be honest, nothing that Dan's doing isn't something that isn't really along the same processes I do with anything else. There's toolbars, there's clicking, there's different direction, like between Photoshop, InDesign, AutoCAD, SketchUp that I use. There's not really anything, you know, I'm not waving my hands around in the air or something and expecting something to happen, you know.
But you're right.
They're just a series of, you know, boxes that I'll get to know where they are. And to be honest, looking at it already, I already know where to go.
So which is great.
Not it's not something that I'm not comfortable with. I just was thinking in terms of meeting, you know, because what this would be really good if we did progress with this, if you wanted to, is that I'd get myself familiar enough with it, because my audience, which would be Tim and Brent, would be, unless I was doing it very similar to what Dan is doing at the moment, would be very frustrating for them. And then just pick a site and show them. And because I'm doing it, not Dan doing it, it's like, well, look, I've just picked it up and done it.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a staff member who can do that, as opposed to, you know, you coming in and well, you can do that if you want to, but I'm just saying, presenting something that's whatever. It's like, well, we got this is what it does. Pick a site, off we go.
Yeah, absolutely, Kerry. And so we're keen. We're keen. It's really good that you've said that. We're keen to get this in the hands of people like you. Just as soon as we're comfortable that it doesn't have too many bugs in it, you know, it's ready to go. Even at a very lightweight, you know, lightweight feature set. I mean, you really, you know, we've got such a more sophisticated feature set that we want to get in there, and there's so many more assets and a whole lot of other things. But we just want to you know, just package up a little, you know, almost, you know, a base light package that we can get to people. Just not necessary to try and solve all the problems, but just to start playing with it and let us know what you think, you know.
Well, I think in my mind, and I mean, I sort of am picking up, and whether rightly or wrongly, sort of, we'll clean that up and, we'll put more buildings in that. To me, it's not even about that. It's really about how quickly can we be in a meeting and communicate to a client.
Yeah.
Like I said, just because you haven't got the house right, the bulk form shows everything. Those types of, that would be your first thing. You're in a meeting, your due diligence. Okay, we've got this site. We can just start doing things like Dan did. All right, what if we put a road in there? And the traffic guy goes, no, we can't do that. And the environmental guys will put trees in, and then quickly you can walk away with decisions being made, and hopefully decisions that are more supportive of a better environment, as opposed to how many lots did I just get. So that's where I see the initial benefit, and that's why I sort of said the second part would be, and that's just because it's me, I love building libraries. It comes down to, where's your clients now? Then we can go, look, we've done that due diligence, and go, yep, Kerry, let's have another Teams meeting. Let's start putting our houses in. Or you go away, Kerry, and start putting my houses in, It's got to be as quick and as formative as that. And to me, it's in a place that really can do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's exciting to do extra stuff that you want to, but
no, I agree, Kerry. Yeah, we want to get it into the hands of people like yourselves as quickly as we can, to get some get some feedback.
Because
absolutely.
And the questions that pop out from clients, and might say, for instance, you're doing all this now, and they'll be like, oh, Dan, can you tell me about this? And like, oh, actually, maybe I can't. And then that pops out, something that, it's going to come up in me. I can't even think of anything right now, but.
Yeah. All very good, Kerry. Thanks.
That's
thanks
right.
For that. So it's worthwhile pursuing, do you think?
Oh, it certainly is on my behalf. I'd be excited to be part of it. And certainly I think the exciting part for me would be to just play with it in the background, myself. And then one day, and look, whether you want to be there or not be there or whatever, is just get those two and a couple of other people a meeting, and just pretend they're a client and just show it to them. Because I said, I think like, and I think, you come, like, this presentation's been brilliant. But I think that if you're presenting to Tim or somebody else, it'd be like, well, that's all good and well. So who can use it? How does it work? And is it actually going to, what's the real time thing? Whereas if we've got staff members going, all right, jump on, here we go.
No, I agree, Kerry. I absolutely agree. So, we're working towards that just as quickly as we can. We're not quite there yet, but we're not far away. And again, we want to do it with people that, acknowledge that this is still in sort of beta testing, and it's not perfect, and it's got some bugs,
Yeah, I know that, mate.
But listen, I said to Dan, and it's really good feedback. It's good for Dan to hear all this too. I said, as a planning tool, if I was back in the planning space, I'd just be, this is just how you go. You wouldn't take a drawing anymore,
Well, I always go back, which is what I would rather do. I'd rather just be in a room with all the consultants with a bunch of Lego. That's what I honestly, because it's like, you sit in there, and I'll sit with Tim and our environmental and that, and we all get in there, and instead of one person drawing it or going away, you get a bunch of like buildings and that, and you start just building things, and if you don't like it, you do it, and then at least that's the old, the 3D. And everyone gets to have a bit of a play, everyone gets to whatever, and be a little bit more engaged in it. It's like even meetings these days, me trying to hand off a pen to someone, it's like I'm giving them like a jellyfish or something. It's like they all jump away. It's like, come on. There's no right or wrong. There's no, don't be embarrassed. Someone's got to pick up the pen. So, with this, it's a little bit gaming. It's a little bit everything. People might be a little bit more willing to have a bit of a crack.
What we find, Kerry, and we certainly find this in our sort of consultancy business with the real-time stuff when we do it, it actually puts a smile on people's faces, which is nice, because again, it's easy. It's and people can take control and drive around and walk around, and the human body and the human mind is very different when you're in control, when you're discovering stuff, when you're not sort of being sold to or being, convinced by somebody that something's good. You say, here, take the control and explore. And it's just the mind works differently,
Yeah, and I always notice when I get a client to pick up a pen or they take ownership of a plan a little bit more, there's certainly more, and it doesn't take long for someone to build up that level of confidence. Like, you got people now who you can't get the pen off, but this is, a bit more fun. I must admit, I don't think I'll ever go away from the pen and paper. I just love the feel of it. But I liked I liked how you bought that thing in, the plan you bought in, and then you traced over it. I just don't know what. There's something about pen and paper and scribbling.
Of course, and you are
old school.
You're a young girl, you know what I mean?
No, I'm not. That's why that's why I know the pen and paper.
It's interesting talking to some of the universities, and I'm conscious of time, so I'll wrap up shortly.
Yeah, you're right.
That, they'll say that a lot of the kids just don't know how to draw, but they know how to use the computer. They can draw in the computer, but give them a pen and paper. That art of hand drawing is rightly or wrongly almost completely lost. And when you look at some of the stuff you can do now with your stylus pen with an iPad Pro, it is pretty amazing. And I guess we're just trying to add to that too. I mean, ultimately we want all this to be you can do all this on your iPad with your stylus, your stylus and that, but we're not quite there yet. It's still a mouse and keyboard, but yeah, it's all pretty cool.
I think, again, communication, that's what get a better outcome. So
yeah, and again for and it's good to hear the way you're talking, Kerry, because there are a lot of consultants that actually don't want, or I shouldn't say don't want to achieve that. They all say they do, but they certainly don't present things in a way or provide the tools for it to be workable. It's still very much a very technical journey that most people still can't understand.
Yeah, and that's why I keep saying we keep getting the same outcome over and over again.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the amount of conversations I have with Tim. I am beyond frustrated with this industry at the moment that everyone keeps saying, we want all this, and we don't even start with social infrastructure. And so that's why, these types of things, you got to show people the investment in other things besides lots and roads. And, we talk about, I just had a meeting the other day and we were talking about this client wants to put a commercial site in and he's right next to one. And I said, you can't cross that road for the life of you. It's an arterial. And I said, the proximity is not the issue. It's how people are going to walk there. And they won't let him have one. They'll let him have a little one. It's just things like that you could visually show, like no one's crossing that road, mate. They're going to drive there and then so it's just things like that everyone says they want different and then they won't do it. So that's positive that we can show them in this way.
Yeah, all very good. So thanks, Kerry. I said that's
thank you.
Really good feedback.
Dan, thank you.
Please let Tim know that you thought it was worthwhile.
Well, yeah, look, he's due to he's just off to Singapore. He won't be back till next week for work. But he says work. Be a lot of wine involved, I'm sure. But look, if you talk to him, more than happy to express what you just said on my behalf. There's no issue there.
Yeah. No, really good stuff. And listen, do you mind if we send you a quick little online survey to fill out?
No, not at all.
It's really simple. It's high level stuff.
Sure.
That's fine. That.
Yep.
All good.
All right.
Hey,
so
thanks,
look,
Kerry. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah. Look, I'll just leave you to contact me or Tim or something. Is that what you want to do? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I don't really talk to Timmy that much. He always.
Oh, right.
He's always too busy. I mean, I shouldn't start like that, but I think
too busy.
Well, with his 4-day week now, he's got to cram everything into 4 days, right?
Oh, right. Does he?
Come on. He's on a 4-day week, isn't he?
I don't know. He didn't tell me that.
Oh, I thought he has Mondays off.
Yeah, he didn't tell me.
Oh, my God.
No. Well, thanks for, someone told me.
Yeah. No, all very good.
I had, no idea. He didn't say a thing to me.
Oh, well, maybe it hasn't started yet. I don't know. I thought that's what he said to me. I could be wrong. You didn't hear from me, Kerry.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me, mate. He didn't tell me. It doesn't surprise me, actually.
All right.
All good.
Okay.
As I said, look, I'll just wait to hear from you or whatever. And look, enthusiastic. Just I'll keep going with what I'm doing, and then when you're ready, just give us a shout.
Sure. Fantastic. Thanks,
All
Kerry.
right.
Appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks, Dan.
All the best. Thanks
very much.
Thanks, Dan. I'll let you go, mate. Because I need to get going too. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Kerry.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Dan. Hey, Dan, just before you go, sorry, can you just